What's up, everybody on YouTube? This is ONH. Welcome to the next episode of What's It Worth, where I'm going to be reviewing Alien Covenant. Taking place 10 years after Prometheus, the colony ship Covenant is en route to Orgais 6, the next Earth-type planet to colonize, which will take 7 years and 4 months to reach. Suddenly, a neutrino burst cripples their ship, killing a handful of passengers, including their captain. During repairs, the crew intercept a rogue transmission emanating from a planet where there shouldn't be any humans. Once they land, the crew look at this planet as an uncharted paradise, but eventually discover the deadly hostile organisms that reside there and must attempt an harrowing escape. After seeing it in theaters, I was left really disappointed in this film. And above all, gypped. And I'm about to go over why that film left me like that. So, one of the biggest downers of this film would be the characters. It's not really the actors' fault as much as it's more like the writers and the director's fault. Because in this film, not one person in this film was likable. They weren't interesting, they weren't charismatic or amusing, they were personality-less, they were dull. I mean, there wasn't one person in the entire film that you actually cared about at all. Even the leading lady, Daniels, played by Catherine Waterston, there was nothing about her that stood out. I mean, even after I saw the movie and I waited till it came out on DVD, I couldn't even remember her name in the film. Now, unlike Ripley and Shaw, that are like the two most memorable characters, Daniels, I felt bad when her husband died. I mean, that was probably the only tearful moment. But above all, there was nothing about her that stood her out as the most powerful leading lady of this whole film. Even the character Tennessee, played by Danny McBride, he was supposed to be the comic relief of the film. Because Danny McBride, he's known in a lot of comedies. And I was expecting him to be funny. He was not funny whatsoever. He wasn't interesting. It was like there was nothing interesting about the character, and same goes for the rest of them. I think the only good characters in this entire film was Walter and his counterpart, David. It was probably the best character interaction I've seen in the entire film. Above all, there was nobody in this film I liked. It was like they were just scripted to just meet their demise within the 2-hour-long film duration. So that just... It was clearly written by somebody who has no personality at all. Another thing that really makes these characters more unlikable is they lack logic, like in Prometheus. Except these guys are so much worse in this film. Oh, and of course, you remember the religious overtones that kind of ruined Prometheus? Well, that was carried on into Covenant. And they have one character that has to carry the torch of one of the worst ideas. When you put these religious tones in an alien film, you're ruining the movie. It feels less like an alien film and more like some space movie written by someone who's hit midlife crisis hard. Okay, they need to stop doing that. Okay, because it's like nobody cares. We leave that shit out. Leave it for like some other movie, just not Alien. Stop it. I mean, I'm happy Romulus leaned away from that. Thank you. But Covenant? Oh my god. You've got to be kidding me. Another downer would be the fact they went full digital with the aliens in this film. Both the neomorph and the xenomorph. Now, in the behind the scenes, they did have people in suits for the creatures. But for some reason, whether that was Ridley Scott's idea or 20th Century Fox's being cheap, they went full CGI with the creatures, which I never liked that, because when the characters are looking at like nothing and they have to use their imagination, it's not as convincing as when an actor is interacting with something they can actually see with their own two eyes. So when they made the aliens digital, you're stripping them of that realism that's absolutely needed. One thing I forgot to mention about Covenant that I didn't like was the chest burst sequence. That was the worst ever filmed, ever done in an alien film before. But Billy Crudup, it's like, he's a good actor, but when he did the chest burst thing, that was horrible how he pulled it off. And adding insult to injury, the thing was CGI, and then when it finally comes out of the sack, it was like, what the hell is this? You know what it just looked like? It just looked like a really anorexic action figure just sticking out of his chest, and it was all CGI. And I'm like, I mean, that part was so bad, it made the first Alien vs. Predator's chest burst scene look better than that. Ugh, god damn this movie. And speaking of CGI aliens, this is what I didn't like about the Xenomorph in the film. He was absolutely out of proportion. And here's an example. His torso is way too big, but his arms and legs are sticks. His neck is too thin, and his head is way too big, and the tail is misproportionate. Why couldn't they bring the original team from the previous Alien movies? I would have preferred Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr.'s design of the Xenomorph more. And the same rule applies with the Neomorphs. When they're all CGI, it was like, I mean, with the Neomorphs, they could have at least put in like an animatronic one and it just only used CGI if necessary. The one thing that ruined this entire film was Shaw was barely in this film. She was either a hologram, a voiceover singing John Denver, a tombstone, and a dissected dummy. You've got to be shitting me. And when they first advertised the film, like before it even came out in theaters, they did actually show the alternate opening where it shows Shaw's journey and it shows what happened in between, where she put David's head back on. You know, they were navigating the ship and Shaw was put into hypersleep. If they had left that in the actual movie, that would have been much better. Same thing with the Last Supper. That they should have left in there because it establishes the characters and you feel like you're getting the Alien movie that was advertised, not some rushed out piece of crap that it leaves you feeling more gypped than satisfied. Which leads to my next point. They felt like they were completely comfortable putting this concept that ruined the entire origin story of the Alien universe, and here it comes. I created the perfect organism. I screwed the franchise. You're welcome. Now, before you go like, oh, how could you ruin an origin story? There is a plus to all of this. It was established in the novelized version, from what I've heard, that David admitted that the aliens are not entirely his original creation. He was tampering with something that's been around for millennia. What he created in Covenant was just his own variation of something that's been around for a long time. And if they had put that in the movie, that would have been so much better. But in the film, they pretty much like went like, oh, well, this is where the xenomorphs came from. And I just... The film does deliver thrills of its own. One of them being the neomorphs. How those creatures come into being and how you end up being not impregnated, but infected by them was, above all, original, and it was absolutely terrifying. And then, like, the next minute, the thing just bursts right out of you, especially the backburster scene. I mean, that was the one thing that sold this movie for me, and I actually wanted to see it. But it was the only good thing about the whole film. And the thing about the neomorph was this was a creature I wanted to see explored further, but they didn't. One thing that I also found disappointing about this film is when they arrive on Paradise or Planet 4. That film lacked more of the Giger-esque elements that they emphasized in Prometheus, especially in Engineer City. There was nothing Giger-esque about that place whatsoever. It was like, it was looking less like something out of a Giger painting. Like, they took set pieces from Robin Hood or Gladiator or Exodus, Gods and Kings, one of Ridley Scott's historical fiction movies, and went Engineer City. Really? And even the engineers themselves, they were actually kind of disappointing too. They didn't have the, they just didn't have that look anymore. They didn't look like the originals where they were like these perfect beings that these statues of Greek gods were based off of. They were just more like over-exaggerated looking humans. They were almost kind of cartoonish in a way, and I just went... And there was a lot of you probably going like, there's something missing about this movie, and, well, you're not alone, as it turns out. There actually is an Alien movie missing, they just never filmed it. According to Ridley Scott, after Prometheus, there was supposed to be a Prometheus 2 where it shows Shaw traveling to Planet 4 or Paradise to get her answers. And then some things happen in between there and there, and it's supposed to answer the questions as to why the engineers, one is dead and gone. But for some reason, 20th Century Fox decided to adjust their plans and took Covenant, which was a sequel that was supposed to be made further down the road, and made that as the next installment. So that's why it was left very awkwardly, like this was a sequel that just kind of came out of nowhere. So I have finally reviewed Alien Covenant for the second time. That's because I forgot this part. I forgot to rate my movie. So where do I rate Alien Covenant? I would say almost low price. I hate to give it that rating, but because of the unlikable characters, bad creative choices, and just feeling like you've watched a rushed piece of crap that just left you feeling disappointed and gypped. Okay, so I just reviewed all the Alien films so far. I may not get around to all the Alien stuff. I'm going to be touching up on the video games eventually. I may change my mind, I don't know, because starting somewhere in November through up to New Year's, I'm going to be reviewing Christmas movies. So until next time, I'm Owen H, and have a nice day, and always stay tuned. Please subscribe, please leave a comment. I want to hear from all of you.